Coming up on Wavelength, an update on the rate case settlement, a look at some of the services LCRA provides its customers, and a profile of LCRA Board Chairman Burton Latoul. Those stories and much more next on Wavelength.
From the Lower Colorado River Authority, this is Wavelength.
Hi everybody, and welcome to another edition of Wavelength. The focus of our rate case before the Public Utility Commission now shifts to a recently signed settlement agreement between LCRA and virtually all of our wholesale customers. The agreement, a major accomplishment, was signed by the Association of Wholesale Customers, the AWC, the New Braunfels Group, consisting of New Braunfels, GVEC, DeWitt County Electric Co-op, and San Bernard Electric Co-op, Structural Metals of Seguin, a large industrial customer, and the General Counsel of the PUC. The settlement agreement calls for a $19 million rate hike, of which $10 million would go to LCRA, with $9 million going directly back to wholesale customers for transmission facilities they have built which serve the LCRA system. Also under the settlement, LCRA agrees not to seek another rate hike for at least 3 years, except under extraordinary circumstances. And LCRA agrees that our gas development program will include gas procurement and storage, but not gas exploration.
So suddenly we've gone from all the way from an $18 million rate decrease being proposed by the PUC staff, the New Braunfels Group kicking the heck out of us, and the AWC agreeing to a $20 million rate increase. We go from that big span all the way down to, okay, tell me what's wrong with $10 million and a 3-year rate freeze. Tell me what's wrong with the deal that LCRA and these customers are putting on the table. So that really helps us, and it's a tremendous accomplishment. We needed to get the big fight with our customers, particularly the big fight between LCRA, the New Braunfels Group, and the AWC settled, because that's not healthy for anybody. And we've settled out with Bastrop, and that's important.
Mark, the $10 million, is that enough?
Well, it's enough, but it's going to be tight, and that's just the reality of agreeing not to go back in for a rate increase. But we all have to step back. You know, the general manager and the frontline employee, we all have to step back and recognize that we don't have the option of going in for a rate increase every year. We've increased rates 4 times in a row, and you just can't keep doing that and survive. If the PUC doesn't kill you, other folks will kill you, because we won't be competitive, because our rates will be too high. So I think the real thing to focus on is not, is $10 million enough, but what does it mean to stay out for 3 years? Well, it doesn't mean that we have to lay off 200 or 300 people, but it does mean that we have to tighten our belt.
The rate case hearing that had been underway since August has now been adjourned, and another hearing will begin December 5th on the settlement agreement. Those who have not signed the agreement include the City of San Marcos and Fayette Electric Co-op, Public Utility of Brownsville, and the Office of Public Utility Counsel, a state office created as a watchdog for consumer interest.
The LCRA staff and board completed work on a drought management plan for the Lower Colorado, and the plan has been forwarded to the Texas Water Commission for approval. The plan is designed to make sure that should there be a repeat of the worst drought ever recorded on the river, which occurred in the 1950s, that there is enough water for municipalities and water districts that depend on the river for their water supplies. LCRA spent about a year developing this plan, getting input from all interests up and down the river.
We formed an advisory committee to work with staff in the development of the drought management plan. 28 members on that committee, consisting of representation from above the Highland Lakes, down through the Highland Lakes, all the way down through Austin, and including the rice irrigation districts. The committee met numerous times. We talked about many alternatives associated with the drought management plan, and developed and responded to their input and questions and comments. Had a thorough review of the drought management plan elements. I'd like to comment and give a yeoman's nod to Quentin Martin for the project manager job he did for the development of that, and working with the advisory committee and the final development of the drought management plan. He did an outstanding job.
The drought management plan for the Lower Colorado River will be the first for any major river in the state.
The Colorado River Watch Network began its third year this October as volunteer groups in 13 cities up and down the river began their weekly testing programs. These students from the LBJ Science Academy in Austin will be one of the groups participating in the network, which is sponsored by LCRA and the Clear Clean Colorado Association. River Watch Network groups will be taking water samples at their locations each week and performing tests for 10 different water quality measurements.
They will understand a little bit more about what happens when a sewage treatment plant discharges to a stream. At other locations, they'll realize what happens when non-point source pollution enters a stream.
We're helping our environment, and we're going to open the public's eyes on what we find.
We are not the only people or things that need this water, that use this water. We have no right to just take it and pollute it and forget about it.
The Colorado River Watch program has been so successful that LCRA is looking at significantly expanding it to give it a larger role in our overall water monitoring program.
LCRA serves some 31,000 square miles of Central Texas with electricity. Now, this power is provided at wholesale rates to our customers like the Pedernales Electric Co-op, the City of San Marcos, 33 cities and 11 co-ops in all. Now, it takes a lot of people, equipment, and services to sustain this huge distribution network. For instance, if your bucket truck breaks down, you can't just take it to the local gas station. That's why LCRA's Transportation Maintenance Facility is available to all of our wholesale customers.
We do more or less maintenance, inspections, dielectric testing. We rebuilt our units at request. The rebuilt consists of from the top to the bottom, replacing all hoses, cables, dielectric testing. We transfer units for them from one truck to the other. Basically anything at their request.
This rig can help track down and fix a hidden problem. It's called a thumper, and it is used to find breaks in underground electric cables. It sends a high voltage charge through the problem cable, and this listening device locates the telling underground thump as the charge exits the fault in the cable. Randy Payne explains just how valuable this device can be.
We arrived at approximately 9:30, located the fault. We unearthed the fault, repaired it, and then tested the cable and was able to leave at approximately 5:30 in the afternoon. If this piece of equipment hadn't been available, it would have probably taken 2 to 3 days to locate the fault.
Of course, the communications department provides maintenance and repair services on everything from telephones and pagers to two-way radios.
Customer knows that they can just call us, and we can come help them. I mean, to me, that's one of the biggest benefits, I guess, that customers get out of there. If they do get into a bind, that they know that they can call.
Rubber gloves are very important safety equipment for a lineman working around high voltages, and they should be tested every 90 days.
If a glove fails on you, it could cost your life, so of course we spend a lot of time on testing those goods, making sure that they're safe to use out in the field. Basically, the gloves are rated at different voltage levels, 5, 10, 20, 30 kV. What we do is we produce a voltage to meet that capacity and test it and make sure that it doesn't fail at its rated value. We also blow the glove up, inflate the glove, check for dry rot, which is really a problem out in the field.
The system metering department also calibrates testing equipment like this voltmeter to be used by technicians in the field. And they test, repair, and calibrate electric meters. All of these services are necessary to the day-to-day operations of LCRA, but as one of our wholesale customers said, It's great to be able to pick up the phone and know that you can get help when you need it.
This month we'd like to take time out to recognize some departments who've done some good work and some individual performance that do some recognition. We don't mess up everything around here at LCRA, and when we do good work, feel like it should be pointed out. So we'll start out with a trip down to Bastrop.
This is the Powell Bend Lignite Mine in Bastrop County. The mine produces 200,000 tons of coal each year, which is moved by rail to Fayette County and used in the fuel mix of Unit 3 at the Fayette Power Project. The mine operation has recently been honored by the Texas Railroad Commission for having the most outstanding reclamation work in the state of Texas for 1990.
So we were competing against some very large mines who have very large environmental budgets and major amount of environmental staff people. So, and they are very anxious to win these awards also. So it was quite a coup on our part to win this award.
The reclamation project here is a joint effort of the mining contractor and LCRA's Environmental and Fuels departments. This state award now makes Powell Bend eligible for a national competition held by the Federal Office of Surface Mining. The 1989 LCRA annual report has recently been honored with an award of merit by the American Public Power Association. APPA is a national organization which represents more than 1,750 publicly owned electric utilities. This award is based on everything from writing and photography to layout and printing. Congratulations to Public Information, the Graphics Department, and the Print Shop for a job well done.
We've got a lot of work.
Pointless Pollution, America's Water Crisis. Produced by LCRA last year, this film has been honored recently with a Silver Award at the John Muir Medical Film Festival in San Francisco. The documentary film about the serious environmental threat posed by rainfall runoff, known as non-point source pollution, also won a Bronze Award at last year's Houston International Film Festival and a Cine Golden Eagle Award in Washington, D.C. Congratulations to LCRA's video department. General Manager Mark Rose surprised Bill West at the October board meeting by presenting him with the General Manager's Award for Excellence. Rose commended West for 20 years of dedicated service.
But if I can think of any one person at LCRA who, through the years, has sustained a strong level of dedication to LCRA truly living up to its charter in the water area, then I think that would be Bill West. It's a privilege to me to Bill, ask you to step forward and receive this recognition in lieu of pay and other things.
West was promoted up through the ranks and in 1987 was named Executive Director of Conservation and Natural Resources. In receiving the award, West said he was pleased, happy, and honored.
LCRA is being asked to donate some land in the Lake Travis area for the creation of a habitat for the protection of endangered species. Now, the following presentation, produced by the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, explains how the Endangered Species Act is being implemented by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and how this activity will affect LCRA.
In pockets of unique natural ecosystems scattered throughout Texas, endangered species of animal and plant life are making their last stand against extinction. In the central Texas Hill Country, 9 rare species are battling for their territory with the city of Austin. Environmentalists and developers are struggling to define the boundaries of metropolitan growth.
4 billion years of evolution is being snuffed out within my lifetime.
I think the development community would like to know who's going to pay for land that is taken out of production.
Yes, an endangered species is telling us that we may be doing something that's harming our environment and ultimately ourselves.
The golden cheek warbler nests only in the hill country of the Edwards Plateau. The black-capped vireo searches for a bit of brushy habitat that will attract a mate. Beneath the canopy of trees, in the dark recesses of the Edwards limestone, 5 rare invertebrates preserve the prehistoric record of their ancestors. From the same fertile plateau grow the rare canyon mock orange and bracted twistflower. These are the 9 rare species whose habitat converges with the metropolitan area around Austin. In 1973, the United States Congress passed the Endangered Species Act, making it illegal to harm an endangered animal or plant species. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is charged with implementing the act.
The Endangered Species Act, the purpose of the Endangered Species Act is to conserve the ecosystems upon which species depend and also to provide a conservation program for the species.
Under the law, it is illegal to injure or kill an endangered plant or animal, or to destroy its habitat if that will result in injury to the species. Putting a species on the federal endangered list isn't easy. Extensive research must first determine the species will disappear if no action is taken. The species in the Austin area have been under study for some time. Both the warbler and the vireo are losing habitat to urbanization. Even greater than the problem of direct habitat loss is the subdividing of their territory into smaller, less attractive blocks, putting them closer to suburban developments. The same beautiful limestone formations that invite Austinites to build their homes in the hill country preserve 5 extremely rare cave invertebrates. They are so rare, in fact, that they have been found in only a few locations in Travis and Williamson counties. James Riddell has been studying caves for more than 30 years.
Caves have basically been considered museums in the sense that they retain a fauna that once lived on the surface but no longer occurs on the surface.
The unique habitat that is home to all of these species is also the focus of development, threatening their survival. The future of these rare species lies in the hands of Texans. The golden cheek warbler's nesting area ranges only through the Edwards Plateau. The black-capped vireo's known population has been reduced to fewer than 1,000, nesting in scattered populations from Del Rio to just north of the Texas state line. 5 rare cave invertebrates have been found only in the Balcones Escarpment at the very eastern edge of the plateau. In addition, the rare bracted twistflower and canyon mock orange grow in this same environment. The challenge is the greatest where these species' habitats converge with the Balcones Canyonlands on the western edge of metropolitan Austin. Development interests have been focused here for years. In 1987, when the first of these species was listed as endangered, landowners were unprepared. During the listing process, many developers pushed forward with their plans, but not without controversy. Construction was halted on some major projects when environmental groups threatened to sue developers for destruction of endangered species habitat.
There was some clearing that was blatantly illegal. Some 250 acres of prime warbler habitat was just lost. They just wiped it out with a hydro axe. We were trying to preserve areas, and at the very same time we were trying to understand where we could put a preserve, people were cutting it up.
The Fish and Wildlife Service attempts to enforce the Endangered Species Act the best we can. The help of local citizens and local communities in reporting activity that they believe to be a violation of the Endangered Species Act is of help to us because our law enforcement agents can't be everywhere.
In a public forum, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service hears from landowners.
I haven't heard any of y'all talk about any review or consideration of what the economic impact is. I don't know that you've had the input of the people out there that are affected by it. or understand that the timing on it is as important as anything else, because there's a lot of people out there, big and small, who, if their problems aren't addressed pretty quickly, are going to suffer some substantial economic problems. So my first question is, have y'all considered the economic impact, and if not, what are you going to do about it?
Listing itself is based purely on biology, and we are required by the Act to do it purely on the basis of biology and not economic considerations.
The thing that's most unfair about the Endangered Species Act is that it places a tremendous burden on a very small group of people. That's the group of people who actually own the land out in this area and who are prevented from doing any type of development activity at all. It essentially freezes their land. It takes away most of the rights that they have for things to do with the land. You're completely stuck. You can't do anything.
The Act does allow for the creation of a habitat conservation plan. That plan would balance any harmful development with activities to promote the long-term survival of the species in that area. Individual landowners had the option to produce such a plan, but the expense is enormous.
Several people in Austin approached us, we're based in San Antonio, approached us with the scenario. They told us that there were lawsuits threatened, there was development stopped, there were a number of endangered species in the area that needed protection. We saw that there was a role for us because we had played this role once before in California, and the first large habitat conservation plan that was ever undertaken near Palm Springs. We played this same role.
The Nature Conservancy spearheaded an effort to gather developers, environmentalists, and government officials to devise a plan for the entire development region. This plan is the Balcones Canyonlands Habitat Conservation Plan.
Otherwise, every single property owner would have to go through a costly, time-intensive permitting process. By doing it once for the whole region, we have economies of scale, and it's best for the species not to do it piecemeal, and it's best for the landowner.
The regional habitat plan would provide for either you're allowed to go ahead with your development, or they're going to acquire your property for a preserve, one of the two, but it's not going to be held in this perpetual limbo.
If this regional plan is successful, it will become an integral part of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service's recovery plan for the species. However, it will be up to other Texans developing on the edges of the endangered species habitat to come up with a plan to protect the species in their area.
Everything about the world's ecosystems are linked and interactive. If we're going to have the kind of climate and ecosystem that man can use and live in, then we've got to have even the tiniest creatures that live in the soil, making the soils rich and fertile for us to harvest, and providing the food chain that the higher animals live off of, that we ultimately live off of.
The endangered species of the Balcones Canyonlands are warning us to take care of the land we share.
In Bay City, just about everyone knows Burton Latoul. As a lifelong resident here, people are quick with a smile and a handshake when he enters the room. Dedication to Bay City runs in the family. Burton's wife Tommy is mayor here, running the day-to-day business of a growing city. LCRA has always played a big role here, and so has the rice industry. Although Burton's father eventually became a rice farmer, Burton says it was all quite accidental.
I was raised in a rice farming family.
My family actually came to Matagorda County to farm sugarcane, and the sugarcane borer put them out of the sugarcane business. So then they started farming cotton, and then the boll weevil put them out of the cotton business. And my uncle always said that if he ever made any money, he felt that he should build a monument to the boll weevil, because that put him in the rice business, and the rice business has been successful for Matagorda County.
Burton served as a Navy pilot in World War II. His missions included everything from high-elevation reconnaissance and bombing missions to spotting enemy submarines. On one mission, he was shot down near Okinawa and rescued by a carrier. He received 3 medals, including the Distinguished Flying Cross. When his tour was up, Burton returned to Bay City and the rice fields. During his years as a rice farmer, Burton Latoul learned the importance of the Colorado River. As an LCRA board member, he's worked to promote various water conservation and water quality projects, and he's always had a keen interest in employee-related issues.
One thing that has really been gratifying is the interest that the directors have in the employees. When we're discussing issues in the boardroom and we're debating an issue, and I don't know how many times I've heard one of the directors say, well, how will this affect the employees? It's the directors really care about the employees, and they're always thinking about them, and I think that's been the compassion that they show for the employees has been a real gratifying thing for me.
Burton says LCRA wears the white hat in Matagorda County, a statement his wife Tommy agrees with.
I have seen some, what I consider tremendous improvements in the work of LCRA in the last 6 years. I think one thing was some changes in goals and objectives. They have been closer to Matagorda County, more on hands as far as the water and the river.
Growing up in Bay City, Burton and Tommy remember when they used to swim and boat in the Colorado River. They hope one day it will be clean enough to do it again. And they say LCRA is just the agency to make it all happen.
Well, that's it for this edition of Wavelength. Thanks for being with us, and we'll see you next month.